In the spring of 1992, an Amish family of 5 vanished from their farm in rural Pennsylvania without a single warning sign. The Yoder family, Levi, his wife Miriam, and their 3 children were known as quiet, hardworking, and deeply rooted in the local Amish community. One morning, neighbors noticed their home strangely still. No sounds of horses, no smoke from the chimney, and no one in the fields. When a bishop stopped by to check on them, he found the doors unlocked. A loaf of fresh bread cooling on the kitchen table and every lamp snuffed out. But the family? Gone. No signs of struggle. No farewell notes. Just silence. The police were called, but with no leads, no evidence. And limited cooperation from the outside wary community, the case quickly ran cold. Over the years, theories swirled. Some said the Yoders left on their own, others whispered about outside involvement. But no clues ever surfaced. Not until a decade later, in 2002, a child in the community pointed out something strange in a photo taken during a church gathering. It was blurry, distant, but clear enough to raise alarm. A figure in the background, dressed in plain clothes, standing near a barn that had burned down years earlier. The figure looked like someone the community hadn't seen since 1992. Could the Yoders have survived in secret? Had they been closer all along than anyone realized? Or was this detail a sign of something far more unsettling? Should we trace the photos, origins or revisit the Yoders' last known day? The Yoder family had lived on the same farm for generations, just a few miles from a tight-knit Amish settlement outside Lancaster. Levi was a skilled woodworker known for his honesty and craftsmanship. Miriam, quiet but warm, often hosted sewing circles and baked for church gatherings. Their 3 children, Nana, Samuel, and little Ruth were well-liked, polite, and deeply connected to their faith. Nothing about the family's life suggested trouble. No debts, no disputes. Just a regular, peaceful Amish household until they vanished. Their disappearance stunned the community. For outsiders, it seemed like a case that should have had answers. But within the Amish world, where trust in modern law enforcement is limited and outside influence is discouraged, the investigation faced challenges from the beginning. Searches were made quietly, mostly by members of the church. They found no broken furniture, no disturbed land, no wagon tracks out of place. Even their animals were still in the barn and fed, but alive. The photo that surfaced in 2002 was taken by a visiting Mennonite family during a shared worship event. It wasn't until their young daughter pointed out the figure near the burned barn that people looked closer. The man's face was turned away, but his build, posture, and even the handmade vest looked eerily familiar, just like Levi Yoder. But the barn in the photo, it had burned down 8 years earlier and hadn't been used since. So why was someone standing there? And more importantly, how long had they been watching? Should we track the burned barn's history or explore who developed the photo roll? The photo quickly became the center of quiet debate among the community. Some believed it was a coincidence, just a man with a similar build. Others were sure it was Levi. But no one could explain what someone would be doing near a burned barn that hadn't been touched in years. The Amish elders were hesitant too. Involve outsiders again, but a few younger members began digging on their own. One of them, Levi Miller, had grown up next to the Yoder's farm. He remembered something strange weeks before they vanished. Levi had been acting distant, sometimes skipping evening gatherings and taking long rides alone in his buggy. Levi also recalled hearing Levi and another man arguing behind the barn late one evening, their voices tense and hurried. When asked about it back then, Levi simply said it was a private matter. Most dismissed it. But now, Levi wondered if it had something to do with the family's disappearance, adding to the mystery. Church records revealed that Levi had recently sold a large portion of timber from the back of his land unusual for someone who was always reluctant to part with family property. But the sale was handled quietly, with no official land deed change. The buyer's name, not listed in any county documents. As Levi dug deeper, he discovered that the buyer may have used an out-of-state address, an odd move in a community where everyone knew everyone. Could someone from outside have pressured Eli? Or was the Yoder family hiding from someone already among them? Levi continued asking quiet questions, mostly at night or during barn chores when others weren't listening. It wasn't long before he found someone else who remembered something strange, a traveling Englishman who had visited the area multiple times in the months before the Yoders vanished. He claimed to be an antiques buyer interested in old Amish furniture. Eli had met with him at least twice, both times away from town and both times unrecorded. No one knew his real name, but one of the children had heard the man call himself Mr. Gray. Levi grew more convinced this stranger was connected to the Yoders' sudden disappearance. When he checked with nearby towns, he found a motel ledger from early 1992, listing a G. Gray staying for 3 nights. The handwriting was rushed, almost unreadable, but beside it, someone had scribbled the words "barn would pick up." That was enough to push Levi to revisit the burned barn. Underneath the blackened floorboards, long rotted and half-sunken, he found a small hollow chest big enough for a box. Whatever had once been there was gone, but there were still rusted nail holes and faint marks in the dirt, as if something heavy had been removed not long ago. And here's where it gets even stranger. Just a few yards away, under an overgrown patch of grass, Levi spotted a small wooden carving, worn but unmistakably one of Eli's. It was new. No dust, no moss, as if someone had placed it there recently. Could the Yoders still be nearby, watching, waiting? Levi brought the wooden carving to the bishop, hoping it would finally prompt a deeper search. Instead, he was met with silence and a quiet warning. The bishop told him not to stir up the past, that some answers were better left alone. But Levi couldn't let it go. The carving wasn't just familiar, was a custom pattern Eli used for gifts. A pattern that hadn't been seen since before 1992. And there was one more thing Levi hadn't shared yet. Earlier that week, someone had left an unmarked envelope at his family's doorstep. Inside was an old photograph, grainy, time-stamped from 1994, showing a small homestead deep in the forest, clearly built by hand. Standing beside it was a man with his back to the camera, wearing the exact same vest from the photo near the burned barn. Scrawled on the back of the photo were just 2 words. Asterisk, stop digging. Asterisk, now Levi was certain. Someone didn't want the Yoders to be found. But why? Were they hiding on their own, or being hidden by someone else? Things escalated when Levi traced the location in the photo and found a trail through the forest, long overgrown, but clearly once used. At the end of the path, fresh wagon tracks leading to a clearing that didn't exist on any map. The Yoder family had vanished without a trace in 1992. Now, in 2002, the ground beneath Levi's feet told a different story, and someone was clearly watching every step he took. Levi followed the wagon tracks through the woods, heart pounding with every step. The trail wound deeper into the forest, where cell service dropped and sunlight barely broke through the thick canopy. Then, just beyond a ridge, he saw a small hand-built cabin nearly swallowed by trees. Smoke curled from the chimney. Someone was living there. He approached slowly, careful not to make a sound. From a distance, he spotted movement to figures tending a garden. One was older, stooped slightly, but his frame and slow, deliberate movements looked unmistakably like Eli Yoder. Levi didn't get any closer. Instead, he returned to town, unsure what to do. He told only one person, a retired deacon named Amish, who had always believed the family left for a reason. Together, they made the quiet decision to return and speak with Eli directly. When they arrived, the cabin was empty. No smoke, no sound. But inside, the table was set for two. And on the windowsill was another hand-carved piece, this one with Levi's initials carved carefully into the base. It was clear now, the Yoders hadn't vanished, they had fled. Whether from threats, pressure, or something else, they chose exile over exposure. And they had been watching quietly this whole time. But just when Levi thought it was over, Amos handed him something he'd found tucked behind the cabins. Stove an old envelope marked asterisk to be opened if we're gone for good. Asterisk inside, a map. And written in Eli's careful script. Asterisk, there are others. Asterisk want help outlining what happens next in a follow-up episode or exploring more mysterious family vanishings. Levi stood in the quiet cabin, staring down at the map. It was hand-drawn, marked with rough trails and symbols he didn't fully recognize, but what stood out were the circles scattered across the region. Each one labeled with initials. At least 6 of them. The meaning was clear. The Yoders weren't the only ones who had disappeared. There were other families, possibly other Amish or Mennonite groups, who had chosen to vanish in silence, each leaving behind hints only someone willing to look would ever find when Levi brought the map back to Amos. The old deacon nodded solemnly. I always knew they weren't the only ones, he said. But neither of them shared the discovery with the wider community. They agreed some truths, especially in a place built on trust and tradition, could do more harm than good.